Um, do you want to get started? I'm Vince. I'm kind of
Yeah,
introducing myself here.
yeah, no problem. I'll have everybody introduce themselves. I was just letting somebody in. Corey Hull joined right when I did about 15 minutes ago. I got on early and he had to cut off for another meeting, so he made me the host. So I'll be letting people in. But let's just go around the room and everybody introduce themselves, and then um, we'll do self-introduction today for Steve since everybody knows who he is. Let me
Yeah.
let Laura in, and then I will start. Okay. I'm Vince Cotero. I am the professional development chair for the private practice division, and I work as a sole proprietor for a firm called City Logic in Cape Coral, Florida. So I'll call everybody out so I can make sure I get everybody from the participant list. Stephanie?
Hi, I'm Stephanie McBrayer. I'm a sole proprietor in Grants Pass, Oregon, and I specialize in small towns and rural jurisdictions.
Welcome. Okay. Robert?
Uh, Hi, I'm Robert Mansfield from RFM Land Use Consulting, based out of Madera, California. For those who don't know where that is, we are just outside Yosemite National Park.
Yeah, excellent. Deborah?
Hey, I'm Deborah Meyerson. I'm based in Bloomington, Indiana. I have my own private consulting firm specializing in housing and community development, and I work around the country on those topics.
Wonderful. Welcome. Stephen?
Steve Ware. I'm a sole proprietor in the Philadelphia area, work mostly in the Northeast, although I've worked all over the country. I've been doing this for about 40 years. I have a split personality. I spend part of my time with developers and part of my time dealing with municipalities. And I'm very interested in form-based code opportunities.
Oh, okay, great. Welcome. Shad?
Hey, good evening, everyone. My name is Shad Como, Principal and Vice President at Friesen Nichols. I'm based in our Pearland office here in Texas. I do a lot of small area downtown plans, but do a lot of focus on campus master planning for higher education.
Excellent. Thanks for being with us. Jeff Ray?
Hello, my name is Jeff Ray. I'm a sole proprietor with Ray Planning Solutions, about 4 months into that role as a sole proprietor, breaking off from a larger engineering firm. So private practice has been great for me. I'm also the chair of the private practice, but I practice out of Omaha, Nebraska, with specialties in land use and zoning administration.
Great. Stephen?
Okay. I'm Steve Tocknell, and I'm the past chair of the private practice division, and I'm very proud to pass that along to Jeff, and glad to have Vince as the professional development chair now. We've been doing these conversations since the virtual APA National Conference in 2020. And thanks to Corey, I guess we're on a pretty close to a monthly schedule now. That we should have one every month. We've been having 8 or 10 a year, but Corey's up the ante on PPD conversations. It's the first one this year, and I'm really glad to get started with it.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate it very much. Colleen?
You're
Colleen,
muted, Colleen.
you're muted.
I had to get to my unmute. Oh, sorry, I'm not fully prepared today. Um, sorry, can't get my video going. Anyway, I'm Colleen Stetzel. I'm in the Cayman Islands.
Wow.
And yeah, and I work for a land use development developer in Cayman.
Oh,
And
okay.
I'm a relatively new member with PPD, so I'm trying to be more connected with the APA divisions in the US.
Okay, great.
It seems kind of
Colleen?
cruel as most of us are probably sitting in about single-digit temperatures right now.
Yeah.
Waiting
Right.
for the
Colleen,
snow.
are you a member of a chapter, an APA chapter?
Outside of PPD, no. Oh no. Well, I mean, I guess, yeah. I'm AICP. I've been a member.
But are you a member of I'm just thinking, would you be associated with the Florida chapter being where you are located?
Our our government planners, like the planning director, he is. And
Okay.
then my colleagues where I work, they're ULI members. So no, I'm not affiliated with a state chapter.
Hmm. You said Grand Cayman, right, Colleen?
Yeah.
Um, okay. Laura, I was thinking, and we could talk about this offline. I'm in Rotary, and our training institute covers Georgia, Florida, and the Caribbean.
Mhm.
So maybe we can use that as some linkage to get people from the islands to the Florida chapter.
That would be
Yeah.
helpful. Yeah,
Mhm.
that'd be great.
Yeah. Same with
Okay.
Kiwanis. We cover the Caribbean area also for membership. So I didn't know how international members are associated with, whether or not they are associated with a chapter. So just curious.
No, I mean for me, I've had anyway, we could talk another time. That's not what we're
Okay.
here for.
All right, we'll talk about it. Okay. Let me see where I am. Laura?
Hi,
Yes.
everyone.
Oh, go
Oh,
ahead,
Oh,
Laura.
there's two
is
Lauras.
it Laura or Alara?
Oh, Laura.
Oh, okay.
We'll go with Laura.
Okay. I'm Laura, and I'm the operations coordinator for Nexus Planning Services based in Spokane, Washington. We're a small boutique consulting firm, and we have been helping municipalities across Washington update their master plans. We've also done work in Montana, Idaho, and Oregon.
Excellent. Thanks very much. Mike? I think you're muted, Mike.
Now we can't see you.
All right.
Better?
Okay, no problem. How you doing?
Yes, I'm a retired Johns Hopkins professor where I taught in the fellowship program. I'm a AICP, and I worked in planning in Florida initially, and that's where I ran into Steve Darknell.
Yeah. I can't say how long ago it is, but
Oh,
we both had all our hair back then.
All right, well, welcome. All right, that includes everybody on the list as far as I can see.
Well, you didn't get back to Alara.
I'll go.
Oh, didn't I? Oh,
That's all right.
I'm sorry, I missed you. Oh,
I'm
you're
probably down at the bottom of your screen or something.
no, it's
yeah.
in the middle of Stephen and Shad. I apologize.
No problem.
Laura,
Yes. So I guess
president of Florida APA. I got to get that in because I screwed up. I'm sorry.
that's okay. That's okay. I'm in good company because I also work for small and rural communities. I also am a sole proprietor, and I also have a split personality because I do both government work and private developer work. So I'm based in Northwest Florida. Most people know where Panama City is. So I am in the Panama City area, and I'm happy to be here.
Oh, excellent. Thank you. And I apologize again. And someone just joined. Jerry.
Yes, sir.
Could you give us a quick introduction?
Jerry Silo. I work for a firm in Dallas called JBI Partners, primarily a civil engineering firm. I focus on neighborhood. We primarily do single family development. I focus on neighborhood development, neighborhood design, and entitlements approval through the cities.
Excellent. Okay,
I'll
welcome.
just happen to introduce myself. Hi, Vince. It's Katrina from Chicago. I
Katrina.
work for
Okay.
Muse Community Design, Urban Planning Consulting, primarily in the Chicago and Midwest.
Welcome. Okay, let me see. I got Mike, Jerry, Katrina, Colleen, Stephen, Jeff, Chad, Alara, Steve. Okay. All right. I'm going to turn it over to our immediate past chair, Stephen Tucknell, who's going to talk about risk management. And we'll talk at the end before we shut down about our first webinar of 2026, which will be on a related topic. And Steve will probably talk about that and explain how we are working on a grant on this topic too, which is very exciting. So Steve, take it away.
Okay, let me hold on a second here. I've got a new computer and it doesn't, we haven't developed a working relationship yet. So, yeah. But I'm going to try to share my screen here. Okay, this is just 3 slides, and I'm putting our APA logo on stuff so everybody knows who we are. And I want to start off by talking a little bit about the product development grant that we have been awarded as a division in July, I guess it is. And we've been making some serious headway, particularly in the past 2 or 3 months. The objective, although not within the stated scope of the project, is to make it easier for planners, not just planners in private practice, to obtain professional liability insurance. This has been a problem that's been brought to the attention of the private practice division several times over the past few years because the APA customer service thinks that nobody in the APA knows more about risk management and professional liability insurance than the people, the leaders of the private practice division. I've tried to change their mind about that, but they've been fairly persistent. So somewhere along the line, it occurred to us that we could pursue this as a project, and so we submitted a product development grant application at the end of June, and it was approved the next day. And the deliverable from the project is going to be risk management guidelines, basically so that you won't be liable for something that you can't expect to be covered by your insurance policy. And the ultimate objective of this, and I'm really glad that Mike's on the call because I've been meaning to talk to him since it happened. But the division's council at a small leadership meeting added value of planning as the #1 division initiative. And Mike and I spent, I don't know, a 2 or 3 hour lunch back at the APA conference in Philadelphia talking about this very topic. And Mike gave a presentation at a PPD conversation like this later that year about raising the value of professional planners in relation to architects, engineers, and finance people, particularly as it applies to land development. So I sort of see this study or this project as a step in that direction. The theme of Mike's presentation back in, I think it was 2023, and our discussion of lunch is barriers to entry. There has to be something that distinguishes a qualified professional planner from a nominal planner who may only be related to a public official or have no real qualifications to be a planner. And one of them is basically that we're insured. I don't think you'd hire a plumber who wasn't insured. I don't see why anyone should hire a planner who isn't adequately covered. So this is a step in that direction, as well as being a step towards making it easier for planners to get their own professional liability policies. And we've been working with mainly with people from who handle risk management for the American Society of Landscape Architects. We looked at the Canadian Institute of Planners because it came up on an earlier conversation that they provide free professional liability insurance for their version of AICP members. And then we also looked at the American Society of Civil Engineers, ASCE, and somewhere along the line in our newsletter or something, I will send you the link, send out the link to their risk management webpage because it's got like, I don't know, 15 or 20 two-minute videos on risk management. It's mainly for engineers, but there's a lot of overlap there, and I would recommend it. But we're going ahead with the ASLA, and as a matter of fact, I was expecting one or two people who work with the ASLA to be on this call because they will be on the panel for the webinar that Vince mentioned. And they're interested in knowing what comes out of this conversation so that they can better prepare for the webinar. I think we've all encountered situations where we became liable or risk becoming liable for various actions that we took or commitments that we made, perhaps without being aware of what the risks actually were. So my first slide is, oh, okay, this is my first slide, I'm sorry. I don't know if everyone can see it, but this talks about risk management guidelines, and the purpose of the project is to enable public and private sector planners to better manage and limit their legal and financial risks when entering into employment or consulting agreements, as well as when conducting professional activities. And I put a save the date on there for February 13th. That's the webinar, and Vince can talk about that later. These are a few risk management issues, and I can go through them briefly. And then we can talk about a few more that might be more pertinent or specifically pertinent to professional planners. Standard of care was one that I hadn't been aware of before I started working on this project, and it's important. If you put something in there that might help you win a job because you're going to do a first-class design or employ the highest skills, then you could be liable if you just do an ordinary job or a workmanlike job. You know, it wasn't the highest care, and you said you would provide the highest skills. So you just need to avoid. You have to use language, contract language, that says that you would do what other people would normally do. Not this isn't the place to, when you're submitting a proposal, to say that you're better than everybody else, because you could be held to a standard that would be unreasonable and expose yourself to you'd be in jeopardy if you didn't do your job better than anybody might possibly have done it. Indemnification is something that has always been bothersome to me, because if you hold someone harmless from something that they might have done, and that can happen. I've been, what do you call it, pressured into signing agreements with indemnification clauses. This is with a public agency that were unreasonable. Basically, if anything happened to X county, it would be my fault. And it's better to be more specific with your indemnity clauses, and also, and they should be tied to negligence, not just something going wrong. And you should avoid accepting a duty to defend someone else for a mistake that they made. So that language needs to be very specific. Consequential damages, I think, are particular importance to planners, and it's recommended that you have some kind of mutual waiver of consequential damages. But if a guy loses his financing because he only had 6 months to get the property rezoned and it took you 10 months, that's nothing that you could reasonably be held accountable for. And that's a consequential damage, and damage not related to the work you've done, but damage related to the outcome of the work that you did. And it can get, I think it's particularly hazardous for planners because some developers work on tight margins and have unreal expectations with regard to legislative or administrative outcomes from development decisions. Subrogation, you just want to make sure that it's kind of like indemnification, that you don't want to be the holding the bag basically for something that someone else does. Limitation of liability, I think there's usually some kind of a requirement, that you have to be covered up to $500,000 or $1 million or $2 million, depending on the size of your firm. That could be an unreasonable risk to assume a higher level of liability than you could conceivably be responsible for. Dispute resolution is basically, a contract is in a certain state, and I think the alternative dispute resolutions are like mediation and arbitration, which may be in the interest of both parties, but you have to make sure that the deck isn't stacked against you as a consulting planner. These are a few others that I thought of in relation to planners. Scope limits, we all talk about scope creep, the guy says, as long as you're doing this, why don't you do something else? And then you can't get paid for the something else you did because it's not in your agreement. So you want to lay out specific terms under which additional work would be conducted. Insurance requirements, that's kind of like limitation of liability. I may be a little duplicative there, but I know when I worked for a very large firm, the limits were not an issue, but for a small firm, they can be. And I think I've worked for primes where they assumed a high level of liability protection, and they wanted to pass that same level down the line to the subs. Ownership and subsequent use of documents. I've dealt with situations where, or I've heard of situations, I haven't dealt firsthand with them, where a client might take a document, alter it, or apply it in a way that wasn't originally intended, and have your name on it just the same. So it's good to have language that confines the documents prepared to the job at hand, and even that you would retain ownership as a consultant, and limit the subsequent use of those documents. Confidentiality is something I'm not quite sure how to address in a, what do you call it, a sunshine law kind of context, an open meetings context. But I'm sure that developers expect a high level of confidentiality. I put reputational defense in there because the only time I've ever been, I'm sorry, I don't know where that noise is coming from. Vince, could you? God, I
Yeah,
hope
I'll
it's
look
not.
into it. Okay.
Okay. Well, anyway, I was pleased to note that the Canadian Institute of Planners coverage applies to reputational defense. I have been brought before a board, a professional engineering licensing board, because I reviewed a traffic study, and the engineer who submitted the study challenged my uh, if that's me, we're all in trouble because I'm the one that's talking.
I think Vince needs to mute himself.
Mhm.
Vince, you want to try muting
Yeah,
yourself?
yeah.
Oh, it was Vince. Okay. Anyway, Vince, you can still hear us, and we'll figure out something later. But reputational defense, a planner can be called to account by an engineer. I'm not the only one that this has happened to, and if you're brought up for in under the coverage that the Canadian Institute of Planners offers to its members, if you're brought up for an ethics violation, uh, this reputational defense clause will provide you with representation, basically to defend yourself, so you don't have to do it entirely on your own. And I would really have appreciated something like that when I was accused of reviewing a traffic study without being a professional engineer. Even though I felt like I was on solid ground, the board felt like it was only appropriate to split the difference. So they told me I could go on and review traffic studies, but I shouldn't advertise it that I reviewed traffic studies. So that was their Solomon's decision, Solomonic decision. Anyway, I'd like the real purpose of this is to get input from everyone else. I've been talking more or less, hopefully, to start a conversation. If there are other issues that you feel should be included in the risk management guidelines, or if you have some insight on any of the guidelines that I put up on the screen, uh, we would really like to hear from you now so that when we do the webinar in February, it represents what's really important to professional planners. And I would appreciate anything that would make these guidelines more specifically applicable to professional planners. And I'll start with a question. I talked to the ASLA, the attorney who handles the legal issues for the risk management issues for the ASLA, and she suggested that planners might regularly expect to be present on construction sites, and I disputed that. Is that, was I right? That's the first one. And are there any situations where a planner might be liable or might be in a workman's compensation situation where they're on a workplace and they get hit by a brick or something?
Yeah, I would say yes, definitely, especially with the kind of work that I do. I'm
Okay.
often out walking raw sites, looking at them and getting information from my planning reports. And sometimes you can end up, oh, how far down is that street? How steep are these mountains? And I've been in a few places where there were driveways that were perhaps illegally put in. I'm trying to maneuver a vehicle possibly in or out, or looking at it, trying to make the decision. Should I maneuver my vehicle in or out of here? For that sort of thing, I'm not on great big construction sites, but I'm on enough raw sites that that was the one thing I went looking for insurance for.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's one of the great things about this conversation. I take something for granted, and someone like Stephanie says, "Get off." And I think the quality, the level of our input to the APA as a whole is elevated by what we what's been said in PPD conversations. So thank you, Stephanie. Does anybody have to, or is it not abnormal for a planner to have a personal protective equipment like a dust mask or something like that, or a hard hat?
Steve, this is Jeff. I wear a hard hat when I go out on construction sites, but typically I'm just measuring things out and verifying where the surveyor has marked for foundations, making sure they're meeting the proper setbacks when I'm working for a municipality. But it's usually not too active. They're usually just digging the foundation at that point.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I've been on sites where it's not necessarily like a construction type of activity going on, but they were in the early stages of wanting to expand, say, conditional use permit use type of thing. And it was their practice that people that were going around the site to have not only hard hats, but those construction, I call them the day glow yellow vest things on just to be more visible type of thing. And in rare occasions also have like safety glasses or safety goggles on, just because of the equipment that was in the area.
Okay. All right. So I will let the attorney know that I was incorrect about that one. Are there any other issues related to consequential damages, indemnification? I know my experience as a sub to a engineering firm that I've and also working for governments, that some of the indemnification clauses I've been expected to sign have seemed unreasonable to me. And I think it's important to say that the damages should be arising from negligence, not just a blanket statement of damages. So we can make sure that that's in there. And since the guidelines we're starting from are for landscape architects, is there anything specific to professional planning that we might have missed?
Steve, I think there should be some type of, I don't know, maybe a tiered indemnification, particularly in regards to our professional liability. In my different roles, one obviously being a zoning administrator for municipalities. I mess up and miss a publication date, then we get pushed back a month. Is pretty limited usually, as far as any significant financial losses for anyone. However, I know there are other roles within the professional planning world where if you're an environmental planner and you miss something significant on an environmental document, it could have substantial damages to the environment and or other things. So it just needs to be maybe some categories, I can't talk, categories, or some type of a tiered system that reflects the type of planner that we are, because I know on my professional liability and the challenges I had getting that, they threw all planners together in one big bucket, then it covers everything that every planner on the planet does. So I'm exposed they view it as me being exposed to all of those liabilities, even though I don't work in those specific areas.
Yeah, and compared to an engineering firm, a small firm, the same cost is a bigger chunk of what our fixed costs than it is for a larger firm. So that's an issue. One of the other things that the attorney raised was with design build that there are other, I guess you call it encroachments on what a planner normally does from other professions. And is that affects the if does that affect planning in a way that we could address it, or is that just something we need to defend against? I mean, I don't like the idea that you I've always been opposed to design build on the sense that it's basically you're giving up on planning. Seems like to me when you take that approach.
Steve, Mike Anarchy, just when you talked about the Canadians that you talked to, do Canadian planners have are they licensed or they have any kind of certification?
I think they have a certification exam. I'm pretty sure it's analogous to AICP. That I'm not positive about that, but because everything on their webpage kind of assumes you already know. But from reading between the lines, my inference is that they're not licensed the way other, like an engineer would be or some landscape architects, but they do have an exam that they have to pass to be a CIP. And I think they have other membership tiers that are not the CIP. And I also think that the provinces in Canada have a more direct role in planning than the states in the United States have. That, like, if there's an ethical violation, if a planner commits some kind of ethical violation in Canada, he has to, the issue is adjudicated by the province. That's the way, I think that's how it looks. And that's why I think that's one reason why the CIP provides reputational defense to its members. In our case, since the AICP enforces its own ethics standards, it raises questions in my mind exactly how reputational defense might work vis-a-vis the ethics officer in the AICP.
Well, that's something that's we've talked about before, and that's the barriers to entry for planners. In other words, what is it that makes them special? Architects are licensed, and landscape architects are licensed, and barbers are licensed, and real estate agents are licensed, and there are certain things that they can do that others cannot.
Right.
And I don't know what that is for planners. The AICP designation appears to add value, and certainly in New Jersey, it leads to licensure, and so it kind of creates the barriers to entry. But I don't know what the regular planners can do that an architect couldn't step in and do, or a liberal arts graduate couldn't step in and do.
Well, I can tell you that architects are not big on engagement and outreach. And as a matter of fact, that I think ethically an architect is obliged to represent the owner, not as opposed to where we have the thing where our first responsibility is to the public interest. That's not the way architects work. And I know that's not where how attorneys work either. So it's a more focused accountability in the other professions. And I was invited to review a standard AIA contract for architects to conduct planning, and it kind of it hurt my stomach really to read it because of the basically the outline of an authoritarian approach to planning, which I found disconcerting. So I think if there's a barrier to entry, and is Laura still on the call? I hope we didn't lose her because I'm referring back to Laura that the planners know their jurisdictions. I think that's the main thing, and they know how the commissioners interpret the regulations and the standards, which could be a lot different from a layman's or a naive interpretation of those standards. So I think in terms of barriers to entry is that we know how to write those standards and other people only know how to follow them. It's I think that would be to me, that would be the number one distinction between a planner and someone who's not a planner. It's beyond ethics. And, Mike and I, when you discussed this with me before, you mentioned ethics as an important barrier to entry. And I think it is. But I also think that there's a certain level of expertise that comes into play from being intimately familiar with the communities that we serve and the people who live in those communities. It's a little digression from this topic, but there was an initial meeting Deborah convened on the Value of Planning initiative, and a lot of that discussion was along the lines of how people got into planning. And there are so many avenues of entry that if depending on how you identify or establish barriers to entry, you could keep a lot of people out of planning who might otherwise be very good as planners, put it that way. Someone who really wanted to be an architect. I worked for a planner once. Well, Mike and I both worked for a planner once who really wanted to be a dentist. And he couldn't make it through dental school. I don't know if you knew that about Harold Henn, but that's the truth. So it's I don't know. It's tricky to establish meaningful barriers to entry for professional planners. Well, one thing we are doing at and Owen Beich is involved is trying to make the planning schools a little more useful in terms of professional practice instead of talking more about theoretical approaches to planning. Practicums and things like that, and also basic business skills, if you call it, budgeting and scheduling and so forth, which planning schools tend to overlook or belittle, in my opinion. And those are very important when you get out in the marketplace, especially in the private sector. The first time I encountered a utilization rate, I had already been a planner for over 30 years. And it came as something of a shock to me. What do you mean I have to be billable for 85% of my time? How is that even possible? So, and I think it was higher than 85% actually, for most of us. But I was in it a planner for, so they gave me 15% to fool around. But there are just basic things like that that planners should know, and planners should be taught. And I don't think they're being taught that much about things that really make a difference to a client or an employer. So that would be I think that might make a planning degree more meaningful than it is right now. Um, I had a encounter with uh, a planner who's active in the division, and I don't want to. I'm sure he didn't mean to be quoted, but he found out about planning because he was living in an apartment building with planners, and it sounded like a better job to him than going through stacks of files, working at an insurance company. So he decided to become a planner, and he's very successful at it. So he's a fellow. So there you go.
Yeah, Steve, can I make raise a couple of questions? Uh, I well the insurance issues has been in my mind since the 90s when I first started my practice in 1994, 95. And it's always been, we concerned whether we need insurance, but uh, that time I think if people remember that we have discussed uh, among different groups, but we never got any real insurance in mandate. So but now I've been away from this country for 20 years now, just come back. Uh, and I really wanted to listen to today's discussion, but I was late because everybody is trying to get ready for the big storm over the weekend. So I have to go shopping and it was so crowded. So I was late. I didn't hear the first part of your presentation. Uh, do, do, are we talking about uh, the insurance that covers both uh, the client side and also, the planner side, personal or company wise?
Well,
Uh,
we're talking about professional liability insurance. Usually, uh, is taken out on behalf of a firm or an employer,
right.
uh, so that if there it's called all errors and omissions insurance. And Jeff said, like if you miss uh, an item on an environmental checklist, or if you miss a filing deadline, for example, those would qualify as errors and omissions,
Hmm.
and you'd be liable for some of the consequences, and hopefully only the direct consequences, not the collapse of an entire shopping center development.
Right.
So
Yeah,
there's
that's the client side, but also your personal side, you have to, if you got injured on the job, does that cover it also?
I think I mean, personal injury would be a workman's compensation issue, and that's really not what we're talking about here.
I see. Okay.
Um, that's a separate issue. And also, typically, when you have professional liability insurance, you also have a more general business policy that doesn't. It's more broadly applicable, but not as costly, or
Hmm.
um, just normal, day in and day out aspects of running a business. My premium for general liability insurance is always um, basically the minimum premium that that agent was willing to accept. So, but typically you don't get professional liability insurance unless you also have general business insurance as well. But no, it doesn't cover.
I
It
see.
doesn't cover. I don't believe it covers injuries on the job, and I may be wrong because I was wrong about um, planners on job sites. I just didn't think of that as something that would normally happen, but Jeff and Stephanie both pointed out instances where the planners are on job sites and could get hurt. So that's
Can we get
something.
us some kind example like other liability insurance from another profession or from another country, or can we get like a kind of model
Well,
version? What's a
the two,
typical version?
the three We did a peer review to kick off the study. We looked at the Canadian Institute of Planners, and we looked at the ASCE, and we looked at the ASLA. I also attended a webinar in July that seemed to be oriented mainly to architects. So I've I've gotten some exposure on all that, but the one reason I decided to go more with ASLA than the Canadian Institute of Planners is because Canadian law has more in common with British law than it does with American law. So it seemed like they were, off on a sort of a different path than what a typical American planner would be on. So that's part of it. But we did look at least one other country when we did this. I don't know what it would be. You do a lot of work in Asia, and I really don't know hardly anything about that. Um, I've been to a couple of international sessions at planning conferences, and I've heard that, Japan does it one way and the Philippines do it. Basically, Japan's do things the British way, and if the Philippines does it the American way, and Japan's better. That's what I heard. So I don't know. I don't
Each
know.
country is different. So, but the liability insurance does cover international practice, I guess.
Well, it depends. I don't know. I mean, at this point,
Do
we've
you
been
see their
working.
liability models? Do you see content like that?
We I think we lost our participant from the Cayman Islands. Was it Christine? She's not still on the call. But we most planners are just here in the United States. I mean, and the APA does have an international division, and they have some presence overseas, but I haven't really, as a part of this project, I haven't gotten into that. Hey, Vince, we got a few minutes left. Do you want to talk a little more about the webinar?
Sure. The webinar will be handled through the Ohio chapter of APA Planning webcast. It's on February 13th, and the official title is Risk Management Guidelines and Recommendations for Private Sector Planners and Other Design Professionals. We're going to have four speakers. One will be our own Jeff Ray, the chair. Jeff, as you heard earlier, is a sole proprietor, and he has over 30 years experience guiding land development, working in zoning administration and community revitalization across both the private and public sectors. And he has a master's degree in community regional planning from the University of Nebraska. We're also going to be joined by two partners in the law firm of Wilson S. Elser, which is a national firm. And the speakers will be Wendy Testa and Ryan Williams. Wendy and Ryan both co-chair the firm's design professionals practice. And we were on a call with them not long ago, and they have a lot of experience and good information to share with us. The fourth speaker is from the firm of Intermarket Insurance. We did invite the president, Bob Olszewski, but he has a conflict. He assures us that there will be a substitute who's a high-ranking official of the firm who works in this area, working with architects and other design professionals. So we're looking forward to that. We are being co-sponsored on this session by the Planning and Law Division, and we have requested 1.5 CEUs, and Maximilian Mahalik, who is the chair of the Planning and Law Division, is also requesting continuing education credits for lawyers as required by the American Bar Association. So we're really looking forward to the program. I'm sure all the speakers are going to do a great job and have a lot of information.
Okay.
So that's pretty much it.
Okay.
Go ahead, Steve.
I want to say hello to Tanja McCoy. She and I have crossed paths in the past, and I see Tanja on the call now. So,
Yes,
hi.
thanks, Steve. Hi, how are you guys doing? I'm glad to get on the call. I know I came kind of late, always busy at work, you know that, but I'm happy to be here and I want to start attending these meetings every time this year so that I can get this valuable information.
Yeah, and
Thank you.
it's great. The conversations are really good because it's more of a roundtable than a presentation with Q&A afterwards. So I think you'll enjoy them. And I've got 3:59 on my clock, and we are religiously committed to that 1 hour limit. But I
Yeah.
am really glad that the private practice division is off to a great start. And Deborah, do you have anything you want to add on behalf of the Divisions Council?
Um, just want to appreciate all that you're doing. Really, it's great the value that divisions bring for their members and the specialists, and I'm glad to be able to join you here today. Thank you.
Okay. Well, good to see a familiar face and in a high role. So thank you for that. Okay.
Well, thank you for everybody that's attended. And Steve, thank you very much for the presentation. And I'm sorry about the computer problem I had earlier that probably drove everybody crazy. So I'll get that fixed. And we hope to see you on February 13th. Check the Ohio Planning site for the registration, and it should be up soon. I am going to be making a change on it, though. So there's a chance it's not up yet because I have to change out one of the speakers that I just mentioned. Is not able to attend, but it should be up very soon.
Okay. All righty.
Steve, can you share your slides? Can you share your slides, Steve?
Yeah,
Or
I would like to. I can send them to.
I was late, sorry.
Well, I can send them to Vince or someone, and
Yeah, send them to me or Corey or both, and we'll get it out.
Okay. All right. It's only 3 slides, so.
Yeah.
Vince, you could
okay.
probably put the slides with with an AI summary of the discussion and send it out, and everybody would have the whole thing then.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right. Okay, I'll get the slides so they can be included.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks. Bye.
All right.
Bye-bye. See you next
Take care,
time.
everybody.